Hey guys, welcome to beautiful and historic Graceland Cemetery here in Chicago, Illinois. Now today I'm going to show you just a few notable monuments here and share a couple of the spooky stories that go along with them. Now this statue in front of me is called Eternal Silence, and it's a pretty legendary statue here in Chicago. There's a lot of history to this, there's a lot of legends, a lot of lore. It was designed by Laredo Taft and it's made out of bronze. It depicts the vision of death, or so it says. Now, it marks the grave of Dexter Graves, who was one of the original settlers of the city of Chicago. He came to Chicago in 1831 before it was even really officially a city, and his family ended up having this built as a monument to Dexter. Now, if you want to read this, feel free to pause it, but now, this is just the back of the grave, but I'll tell you a couple more things about this statue. Now, this cemetery, Graceland Cemetery, is one of the more haunted cemeteries, or so they say, in the city of Chicago. But this is just a fantastic monument, and I'll take you back to the other side now so you can see it again. But this is also rumored to have been the inspiration for the blue ghost on the Ouija board. Looks like people leave some things here for good luck. But yeah, do you see the resemblance of the blue ghost here? Now, the other thing about this is that it's rumored that if you stare into the eyes of Eternal Silence here, that you can see how you are going to die. Personally, I'm not seeing anything, but this is Eternal Silence. Now, let's go check out a few other things here at Graceland. Now here we have the final resting place of Jack Johnson, and he was a professional boxer. He was world heavyweight champion from 1908 to 1915. He had a fight in 1910 against James Jeffries, and it was called the Fight of the Century. Now as you can see, people leave things on his grave right here, and he also liked to note on this that he was the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, which is a pretty big accomplishment in those days. Now, he passed away in a car accident on June 10th of 1946 at the age of 68. And now I'm going to show you what is referred to as probably one of the most famous ghost stories in Chicago. It's right up here in the glass case. This is Inez Clarke. Now, if you've never heard about this, Inez Clarke was a 6-year-old girl, and she was out in the late 1800s with her family, and she was struck and killed by a bolt of lightning. As you can see, people like to leave toys and bells and just a lot of random knickknacks here. But this is kind of a fascinating story. This statue was built, or it was made by Andrew Gagel in 1881, and this was a life-size statue of Inez Clarke. Now, there is some debate as to if this girl's name was actually Inez Clarke or if it was something different, but the legend says Inez Clarke. It's labeled Inez Clarke here on the stone. But now, there's been sightings reported here from people that have been here that have reported seeing a girl dating back to the late 1800s. People have been reporting this, seeing a girl hanging around here in time period clothing, and then they'll look back and then she's gone. And kids have described playing with a girl here, and then the parents would go and look and she would be gone. Now, the most notable story, and the one that happens the most frequent, is during a thunderstorm. This statue is said to have disappeared and then reappears after the storm ends. Now, the weirdest thing about this is this has been claimed by even numerous people that work in this cemetery as security guards. They have also claimed seeing this disappear during thunderstorms. Now, if you're from Chicago or if you visit Chicago, chances are you probably know of Wrigley Field and the Chicago Cubs. And there was no Chicago Cub that was more beloved and more legendary than Ernie Banks. He was named Mr. Cub. He was beloved by everybody. I mean, he was one of the best Chicago Cubs ever, the only one, aside from Sammy Sosa, to hit 500 home runs. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Obama. He passed away in 2015, but he was always around Chicago. He hung out at Harry Carey's restaurant a lot. I personally saw him there several times. He would come up to your table even sometimes and introduce himself, and he was kind of like an honorary mayor of Chicago. But very, very nice guy. He was always available to sign an autograph, pose for a picture, say hello. But there was a temporary grave of Ernie Banks here before this one was placed, and it just was a simple simple headstone that had his number on it. But this is the actual stone now, and I believe this ivy was transferred from Wrigley Field. But this is the final resting place of Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. Now, aside from famous people, settlers, haunted things, this cemetery is also known for its architecture. There's a lot of really neat stones, some great architecture, some really awesome monuments here. Now, this is just kind of cool. A lion with a door knocker in its mouth. Now, this is just one of many examples of cool things that you can see here. This cemetery is really, really worth the stop if you ever come through Chicago. And it's only a few blocks north of Wrigley Field. But this is the grave of Columbus Cummings. I'm not entirely sure who that is offhand, but this is just an awesome monument. Now, this monument right up here is the grave of George Pullman. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar, he was a guy from Chicago, and he was an engineer, an industrialist, and if you've ever gone to sleep in a train car, he created the Pullman train car, which, was just a place to rest on a train. And he did quite a bit in his life, but he passed away at the age of only 66. But this is his final resting place. Just a beautiful memorial here, too. Now, cemeteries aren't only a place for the dead, it's also a place for some wildlife. Usually when you're here, in a lot of other cemeteries, you'll see deer, you'll see anything from geese to peacocks, and usually you'll see a couple coyotes like this wild guy here. It's kind of fun seeing them up close. This name is a little bit random. Uriah Hare. This is one of the fun things about going and checking out places like this, is you never know what you're going to see, who you're going to see, and sometimes it's fun to look these people up just to see what they did with their lives. Now, this mausoleum here always fascinated me. It's built into a hill and kind of underground, but it's a little spooky. This is of Ludwig Wolf. The only thing I can find about him is that he was a coppersmith, and that this particular location is also supposedly haunted, but I cannot find really any stories what people have reported here. But it is a pretty interesting location here. Now, this is the grave of an architect here. This is Bruce Goff. I'm not entirely too sure about what he's known for, but this is a really neat stone. Check that out. Now, if you go over the bridge, there is a little island on this pond, and the person that's buried on this pond this is probably one of the best locations here in this cemetery, but this is the final resting place of Daniel Burnham. And Daniel Burnham was the original architect of the city of Chicago. So this would be his resting place. It's a really nice area here too, because there's a lot of wildlife that come out here. There's always turtles nearby, a lot of ducks, things like that. But right here, the City of Chicago architect Daniel Burnham. A little view from his area here. Now that's all I have for today from Graceland Cemetery. If you guys like this video, give it a like and let me know. And if you did enjoy this, I will come back and make a part 2 and show you some more of the stones and some more of the haunted history of this place. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.